Hello everyone, this is Gene from NYC and I'm back with another video. I'm choosing this to be the video prop because WrestleMania was 2 weeks ago, and if you know anything about me and about my channel is that I'm a big wrestling fan. So I figured in honor of WrestleMania, in honor of one of my favorite pastimes growing up, and something I thought at one point in my life I might actually do for a living. Then I figured out that I really can't take pain all that well. But in honor of something that has been such a part of my life, I figured let me use the WrestleMania 22 DVD as a video prop. Also, I will be making a wrestling related video. Some of you may or may not know, but John Oliver made what I view to be some inflammatory comments about pro wrestling, and specifically about the WWE and providing a wrestlers union and providing health insurance and all this other stuff. So I need to do a little research for that, but I will be making a video about that. Very little escapes these eagle eyes of mine. I may not always be able to address something right when I hear it, but I am aware of these things. So John Oliver, I have you in my sights. But anyway, this is not about John Oliver. This is not even really about pro wrestling, though there will be a pro wrestling reference after all. This is me we are talking about. This is actually about, excuse me. This is actually about Netflix. Now, from what I've seen and from what I've heard, I believe Clownfish TV did a video about it. I know at the very least they did a video about it, and that's how I heard about this situation. But apparently, some random rando on the internet who works for Netflix took the Netflix account and basically went on a bit, I don't know if it's a Twitter tirade, but basically went on this multi-tweet post rant about how the term chick flick is somehow offensive. Now, I'm not big on movies, not really a moviegoer. I've seen plenty of movies throughout life. I mean, when you've lived for 30-some years, you just see a lot. But I'm not much of a moviegoer. But if there's one thing I know, it's that chick flick is a phrase that has, been under attack before, right? Because of the idea, really because of the word chick, right? And the fact that the word chick can be used in a dismissive way toward a woman. And the idea, of course, is that chick flick is a dismissive term for a movie, or some view it to be a dismissive term for a movie that is basically by women and for women. Romance. It gets associated with rom-coms, but it's really just anything that, again, has a predominantly female audience. So things like rom-coms, dramas, love stories, things of that nature, right? Basically, movies that women tend to like. For example, 50 Shades of Grey is a chick flick. Magic Mike is a chick flick because it appeals predominantly to women. It's what women want to see in their movies. So this person, whoever they were using the Netflix account, so I don't know who they are, but somebody got their hands on the Netflix account, so I'm assuming they work for Netflix, and went on this tirade about how the term chick flick is dismissive. And I will admit, it can be, but, and here's the most important part, that depends on how it's used, right? It depends on the content, the context, and the intent of the term when it is used. And this is something that I'm noticing more and more, is that you have these overly sensitive people, right, who just object to everything and just want to cancel everything because of the potential of offense. Here's the problem I have with that. I have many problems with it, but here's a few. First of all words pretty much have the potential to be offensive to somebody, whether you intend to or not, right? Because when you take words and you string them together, you get compound words, and then you put more words together and you get sentences and all this other stuff, right? And there's always the possibility for offense, right? The word chick can be offensive. The word girl can be offensive. The word boy can be offensive, right? It's not that these words are offensive in and of themselves. What can make them offensive is how they are used. For example, I was actually watching a wrestling promo, one by a new female wrestler coming up. Her name is Lacey Evans. I always have to remind myself it's Evans because of her name, and she tends to wear green as part of her gimmick. So I always think of Lacey Green, the feminist. So I always have to remind myself that it's Lacey Evans, not Lacey Green. But anyway, Lacey Evans did a promo where she basically healed or basically insulted the women's locker room. And she did this by referring to the women's locker room as girls, right? Referring to the women's locker room, to the other female wrestlers as girls, while she herself was a woman, a lady, right? Understand what I'm saying here, right? She made the word. It's not that the word girl itself is insulting. It's the way she used it. She used it in a demeaning way, right? Saying that these female competitors were lesser to her, right? That she is a woman, she is a lady, and they are just little girls, right? So, should the word girl be canceled? Should we now start taking offense to the word girl just because someone's able to take that term and use it in a insulting and demeaning manner? Or do we use our brains and realize that, again, it depends on the content, the context, and the intent of the speaker, right? When words are being spoken, right? And so, or how about this? What about the term "bye Felicia"? Right? That is seen to be basically a dismissive term, generally directed at a woman, right? It's basically saying goodbye. I don't want to pay attention to you. Just go on, right. Of course, taken from the movie. I think it's from Friday, right? From the movie Friday, I think. Again, not much of a moviegoer, but still, that can be used as as basically a dismissive insult. Do we now ban that term? Right? Because if you ban that term, then guess what? What if someone really is saying bye Felicia, as in goodbye Felicia, as in wishing somebody, or rather telling someone named Felicia goodbye, right? What can be a send-off for one person, right? Literally saying goodbye to someone named Felicia. Is it insult coming from the lips of another person who wants to use it to demean? Words have power and words have meaning depending on who uses it and how they're speaking and what they intend to say, right? If you start canceling words, if you start canceling phrases, right, especially when the words themselves are tame. I understand a little bit more if the words are historically known as slurs, right, like the N-word, or if they're profanity, because we already have a sort of disposition against those things. We already view those things as sort of bad and dirty and ugly. We use those terms, of course, right? But it's already pretty much been decided that terms like that are bad language, right? So I understand a little bit more when people get offended when terms like that are used. But we are talking about words that are inherently innocent and that only become insulting when someone uses them in an insulting manner, which is the massive bulk of language, of the English language, of any language. And when you start saying cancel this word, cancel that word, cancel this phrase because it can be offensive, guess what? You're basically saying cancel all language. And to that I say no, except that all language has the potential to be offensive if you let it be that way, if you take it that way. You cannot cancel every single word. Soon we won't be able to say anything. And honestly, and again, it's kind of like how I feel about character design. If you cannot if you cannot do sexy designs, you can't do innocent designs. Right? The range of creative expression, in my personal opinion, needs to run the gamut from the pure to the perverse and everything in between. I feel generally the same way about language. Right? That doesn't mean there should never be any limitations or restrictions on language. Right? For example, generally speaking, it's improper to swear at work. At least in the type of work I do. Right? But there's a difference between saying, look, you cannot use that type of language in this setting, and then saying you cannot use that type of language at all. Right? And then, trying to engage in social shaming and things of that nature. Right? So basically, yeah, those are the I kind of lost my place. I apologize for that. But basically, that's my opinion on it. If you can't use perverse language, not that I personally am a fan of perverse language. I try very hard to not use perverse language. I can't always say my language is clean. It's not squeaky clean. But I do try to avoid perverse language because I personally do not like it. But if when it comes to verbal expression or even written expression, right, if you cannot use perverse language, then you can't use clean language. You have to allow for both extremes so that you can have what most people have, which is in the middle. Right? So I just feel that we're moving toward this slippery slope is to where literally we'll just be speaking in sign language. And then somebody will get upset about that too. And especially in regards to entertainment, right? This makes me wonder, what other phrases now are going to come under attack in time? If the term chick flick, which is typically just used to refer to movies that are designed with a female audience in mind, if this now is offensive, right, and needs to be basically, airbrushed out, right, then what other terms are next? Is the term kung fu flick going to be considered a, racially insulting term because it's referencing a certain style of movie that is associated with a certain ethnic group and certain actors, even though a lot of those actors in that ethnic group act in those movies and use that movie that genre as a platform to use it as a platform to success and to mainstream exposure and acceptance. Because guess what? If we don't have kung fu films, we don't have Bruce Lee, we don't have Jackie Chan, we don't have Jet Li, we don't have Michelle Yeoh, we don't have Lucy Liu. And yes, I count Lucy Liu because although I think she started on Ally McBeal. While she didn't start in kung fu movies, to my knowledge, one of her most famous roles is in a kung fu film as Oren Ishii in Kill Bill. So that's why I include her. So if we cannot be referred to Asian martial arts cinema, I guess you could say, as kung fu flicks, right? If it's somehow deemed that, this term is offensive now. It's insulting to Asians. It's like, but it's Asian dominated. It's named after an Asian martial art. What more do you want? See, these are the logical conclusions, or perhaps they're illogical and absurd. I don't know. But these are the conclusions that my brain heads to. Because I'm wondering, just how far off the slippery slope are we going to go with this? Right? Or how about the term blue-eyed soul? Right? For those who may not know, blue-eyed soul is a term, at least in the mainstream American music business. Can't speak for the outside world, but at least in the American music industry, it's a term that basically means white artist who sings black music that is not rap. Right? So is that going to be considered cultural appropriation? Is that phrase going to be considered insulting to black artists and to the black community? Right, because because it could be interpreted as, white people claiming something that is not theirs. Right? How far are we going to go with this? Is this now an offensive term? What about artists in that genre? Artists like Michael McDonald, Tina Marie, Annie Lennox when she's solo, not when she's part of the Eurythmics. George Michael. You want more recent names? Joss Stone, Adele, Amy Winehouse, R.I.P. What about them? Are they now cultural appropriators? Are they now infringing on something that is not theirs? Right? Are their contributions and accomplishments in music and to this particular genre, are those now, what's the word I'm looking for? Are those now invalid because they happen to be white people who sing a particular brand of music that is more associated with African Americans? Where do we draw the line? Where do we have common sense? Or has common sense truly come and gone? I don't know. I don't have the answer. This is just the thoughts that have been running through my head about this situation. I am deeply concerned that one day all terms shall be deemed offensive, all words shall be deemed offensive, just because some Yahoo on the internet, got offended, got triggered, and decided that this word needs to go. So anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think, and perhaps we should all start learning sign language. Anyway, this is Gene, and I am signing out for this video. Have a good night, or day, wherever the heck you are. Be safe, have fun. Bye!